Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes BYD's biggest bull cuts price target by 23% on dimmer outlook. Hongkongers fall for China's big box stores. Hong Kong stocks rise for second day on China rate cut bets amid deflation risk. Modest gains for Hong Kong if multiple entry visas for Shenzhen residents restart. $3 billion top Asia fund bets on Tencent again, despite China gaming rules. BYD's biggest bull cuts price target by 23% on dimmer outlook. Bloomberg. Citigroup has lowered its price target for BYD due to expectations of increased competition in the Chinese electric car market. The analysts also reduced their sales forecast for BYD for this year and lowered their estimates of BYD's profit per vehicle. Despite the lowered price target, Citigroup maintained a buy recommendation for BYD shares. Hongkongers fall for China's big box stores. Financial Times. Hong Kong residents are increasingly crossing the border into mainland China to take advantage of cheaper groceries and American-style wholesale warehouses. The flow of consumer spending has been towards China, despite hopes that the reopening of the border would lead to an increase in spending in Hong Kong. Hong Kong residents spent around 50 billion Hong Kong dollars, $6.4 billion, in mainland China in 2023, accounting for 12.5% of the forecast retail value for Hong Kong for that year. Some economists predict that this trend could knock as much as 1% off Hong Kong's GDP in 2024. Hong Kong stocks rise for second day on China rate cut bets amid deflation risk. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong stocks have risen for a second consecutive day as investors believe that China's central bank will cut lending rates to boost the economy and combat deflation. The Hang Seng Index rose by 0.1% to 16,314.58, adding to the 1.3% rebound on Thursday. The tech index remained unchanged, and the Shanghai Composite Index increased by 0.4%. However, HSBC shares fell by 2.2% and the Hang Seng Index has lost 1.1% this week, marking the worst start to the year for Hong Kong's stock market since 2016. Analysts predict that the People's Bank of China will cut the one-year medium-term lending facility rate by 10 basis points on Monday. Modest gains for Hong Kong if multiple entry visas for Shenzhen residents restart. South China Morning Post. The resumption of a multiple entry visa scheme for Shenzhen residents is unlikely to bring significant benefits to Hong Kong's economy, according to economists. The scheme, which allows Shenzhen residents to make multiple trips to Hong Kong within a year, is expected to increase the number of visitors but will not address the underlying issues of Hong Kong's weakened competitiveness in tourism and lower per capita spending by mainland Chinese tourists. The previous influx of mainland tourists caused tensions in border towns and led to protests. The resumption of the scheme may spark similar conflicts. $3 billion top Asia fund bets on Tencent again, despite China gaming rules. Bloomberg. The Federated Hermes Asia ex-Japan Equity Fund has added Tencent holdings back to its portfolio, despite further gaming industry restrictions imposed by the Chinese government. The fund's manager, Jonathan Pines, cited Tencent's attractive valuation as the reason for the investment. Tencent's shares trade at less than 16 times forward earnings, making them appealing to Pines. He also stated that the risks of investing in China are worth taking due to the low valuations of Chinese stocks. The fund is also overweight on South Korea and prefers Samsung Electronics over Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing in the semiconductor space. Japan's Nikkei hits fresh 24-year peak, set for best week in 22 months. Yahoo! Japan's Nikkei share average reached a fresh 24-year high on Friday, heading for its best week since March 2022. The index has rallied 6.13% for the week, supported by receding bets for an end to the Bank of Japan's negative rate policy at its January meeting. Foreign investors have also returned to the market, buying a net 296.2 billion Japanese yen, $2.04 billion of Japanese equities in the week to January 6. Foreign investors dump Taiwan stocks ahead of election. Nikkei Asia. Foreign investors have been selling Taiwanese stocks ahead of the island's presidential election, turning more risk-averse. In the first 8 trading days of the year, foreign investors sold a net $878.56 million worth of Taiwanese equities, according to Taiwan Stock Exchange data. This follows strong foreign inflows of around $14 billion in November and December as investors expected the U.S. Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. Tesla cuts China prices as world's biggest EV market slows. Bloomberg. Tesla has cut the prices of its Model 3 and Model Y electric vehicles in China. The starting price of the Model 3 has been reduced by 5.9% to 245,900 Chinese yuan, $34,300, while the starting price of the Model Y has been lowered by 2.8% to 258,900 Chinese yuan. This move could put pressure on Tesla's competitors to lower their prices as well. The Chinese electric car market is expected to slow for a second year in 2024 due to the country's economic recovery from the pandemic. Tesla has been using price cuts to attract buyers in China, where local automakers have been launching new models and focusing on advanced technologies. Bullish-looking China options trades mask lack of conviction. Bloomberg. The falling put-to-call ratio in China options data may not be an optimistic sign for the market, but rather a lack of conviction in the market's ability to rally sustainably. The ratio measures the number of bearish options outstanding relative to bullish ones, and a ratio below 1 suggests that investors prefer contracts betting on gains. However, it could also indicate that investors are giving up on the index after years of decline. The Hang Seng China Enterprises Index has seen 4 straight years of losses, and investors remain unimpressed with the level of policy support announced by China. Some analysts suggest that investors may be unwinding their downside protection as stocks decline, and instead buying calls as a substitute for long exposure to the index. Asian shares cautious as oil jumps on U.S. strikes in Yemen. Yahoo! Shares in Asia-Pacific were cautious on Friday following the escalation of conflict in the Red Sea region, which has sent oil prices higher. The United States and Britain have begun carrying out strikes against targets linked to Houthi rebels in Yemen, after the Iran-backed group attacked international ships in the Red Sea. Brent crude rose 2% to $78.95 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude climbed 2.1% to $73.53. Tokyo Stock Exchange regains top spot for market capitalization in Asia. Nikkei Asia. The Tokyo Stock Exchange has overtaken the Shanghai Stock Exchange as Asia's largest stock market by market capitalization. Overseas investors have returned to the Japanese market, making significant purchases of blue-chip stocks. The Nikkei stock average rose 1.8% to close at 35,049, its highest level since February 1990. Large-cap stocks, including Toyota, Sony, and Hitachi, made significant gains. The rally is partly driven by global macro hedge funds, which are placing bets based on predictions of monetary policy and economic factors. The recent weakening of the yen has also made Japanese stocks more attractive to foreign investors. Lionel Messi's impact on MLS was immediate. What will Season 2 bring? Washington Post. MLS has made considerable strides over 30 years. Stadiums have risen and the national footprint has swelled. The quality of play and level of sophistication have evolved. Players have used the league as a launch pad and a landing spot. Taiwan is about to choose its new president. What's at stake and how might China respond? CNN. Taiwan is today electing a new leader, with the election being watched closely by the world, as it is taking place under the shadow of China's increasing assertiveness. China has spent the last 8 years escalating its threats towards Taiwan. China's ruling Communist Party considers Taiwan part of its territory. All three candidates have said they will maintain peace and the status quo, however, they have different visions for how to achieve that. Current Vice President Lai Ching-te of the ruling party, the Democratic Progressive Party, wants to bolster Taiwan's ties with the US and Japan. He believes Taiwan is already a de facto sovereign nation. The main opposition party, the Kuomintang's KMT candidate, Ho Yuih, wants to resume dialogue with China. Ho has also rejected Beijing's one country, two systems model for unification. The third candidate, Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party, advocates a pragmatic approach to seek a new way out in the US-China rivalry. China has warned Taiwan's voters to recognize the extreme danger of Lai Ching-te's triggering of cross-strait confrontation and conflict. Open house, $77,000 a month rental shows depth of Hong Kong's luxury downturn. Bloomberg. The downturn in Hong Kong's property market is leading homeowners to rent out second or third properties rather than sell, as they hope that the decline will end when borrowing costs fall and China's economy improves. The government has also suspended residential land sales for the first time in 14 years due to poor demand. However, finding tenants for top-end properties, particularly in a time when companies are retrenching employees, can be challenging. Rents have risen from their pandemic lows but remain below levels seen 5 years ago. There are currently over 20 luxury properties listed on real estate agency Landscope's website for at least 300,000 Hong Kong dollars, $38,400 per month, including a 5,480 square feet semi-detached house on the Peak Severn Road, offered for 330,000 Hong Kong dollars, and Chu Wan, a 4,000 square foot house on the Peak, which is listed for 600,000 Hong Kong dollars per month. Waste charging, changing Hong Kongers' habits won't happen overnight. SCMP opinion. Hong Kong will introduce municipal waste charging on April 1 as the government seeks to tackle the city's growing waste problem. The scheme aims to provide financial incentives for waste reduction and recycling, and is modeled after successful waste management systems in countries like Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. However, the implementation of the scheme is expected to face challenges, given Hong Kong's unique conditions and the need for widespread community participation. The government has been criticized for not being fully prepared for the scheme, but it has undertaken significant work in areas such as setting up supply chains for bags and labels, engaging with stakeholders, and enhancing the recycling network. The government's medium-term goal is to reduce the waste disposal rate by 40 to 45% and improve the recovery rate to 55%, with the long-term goal of developing waste-to-energy facilities to reduce reliance on landfills. And that's a wrap for today's news. As always, I'm Dr. Six, your trusty guide through the world of 6 degrees. Let's quickly recap what we've covered. First, we learned that Citigroup has cut its price target for BYD, a Chinese electric car maker, due to increased competition in the market. However, they still maintain a buy recommendation for BYD shares. Next, we discussed how Hong Kong residents are flocking to mainland China to take advantage of cheaper groceries and wholesale warehouses, causing a shift in consumer spending that could impact Hong Kong's GDP. We then turned our attention to the Hong Kong stock market, which has risen for 2 consecutive days on hopes of a rate cut by China's central bank to combat deflation. However, concerns over HSBC's performance have dampened the market's overall performance. Moving on, we explored the potential impact of the resumption of a multiple entry visa scheme for Shenzhen residents on Hong Kong's economy. Economists believe that this scheme may not bring significant benefits, as it fails to address the underlying issues of Hong Kong's weakened competitiveness in tourism. Shifting gears, we discovered that a top Asia fund is betting on Tencent again, despite China's gaming restrictions. The fund manager sees Tencent's attractive valuation as a reason to invest in the company. In Japan, the Nikkei share average has reached a 24-year high, heading for its best week in 22 months. Foreign investors have returned to the market, buying Japanese equities. Foreign investors, however, have been selling Taiwanese stocks ahead of the island's presidential election, showing a more risk-averse stance. Meanwhile, Tesla has cut prices for its electric vehicles in China, putting pressure on its competitors as the Chinese electric car market slows down. In the options market, the falling put-to-call ratio in China may indicate a lack of conviction in the market's ability to rally sustainably, rather than being an optimistic sign. Moving to the geopolitical arena, we discussed the escalating conflict in the Red Sea region and its impact on oil prices in Asia-Pacific. In the world of stocks, the Tokyo Stock Exchange has regained its top spot in Asia's stock market capitalization, driven by overseas investors' return to the market. Shifting focus to sports, we explored the impact of Lionel Messi's presence in Major League Soccer, MLS, and looked ahead to what Season 2 might bring. And finally, we delved into the Taiwanese presidential election, which is taking place amid China's increasing assertiveness. The candidates have different visions for Taiwan's future, with implications for the ongoing tensions between Taiwan and China. That's all for today's news. I hope you enjoyed our journey through the latest happenings in the 6 Degrees world. Remember, you can always join the discussion and share your thoughts and questions. So, what's on your mind? What are your thoughts on today's news? Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email,